My name's Tony Wilson, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some different methods of trying to write stories with children. Now what I'm going to show you is for your benefit, not to show to the children straight away. From the very early stages you would introduce the 5 questions of who, where, what, why and when. And you get the children to understand this. Now there is a song on the CD which is who, where, what, why, don't forget when. Hopefully the children will take this on board and they will find themselves like remembering almost by osmosis, because they've sung the song since they were in nursery. But it is difficult if you're looking at a single sheet of white paper and somebody's expecting you to write. Well, one of the things that you've got to show children are that there are 5 questions. 5 questions that people ask about a story. And those questions all start with a W and an H. And even when the children are very small, there is no reason why you won't expect them to write this up. But there is no reason why they can't be introduced to the idea of showing 5 fingers of who, where, what, why and when. It does come in handy when the children are older, and what you're going to do is you're going to show them that there are 5 questions that people ask. Well, who are the characters? What is the plot? And if you say that to children so that they have a kind of a rhyme, which is what is the plot? What is happening inside of the story? And I'm sure we've all come across those stories where there's lots of description but nothing actually happens. So, who are the characters? What is the plot? When is part of the setting, so that you have who, what, when, where, again, part of the setting. And the last one, which is often quite difficult, and it's very interesting to ask children after you've told them a simple story with the very young ones, if you've told them a story of, say, Goldilocks, and you ask them, why did Goldilocks go wandering off? And they'll come up with some quite surprising answers. So you've got the 5 questions. Who, where, what, why and when, but not necessarily in that order. And you introduce children to those 5 questions, and then when they're older, when they're getting towards the end of Key Stage 1, you tell them that their job as an author is to tell people how. And this is the writing part. Again, if I can just emphasize that this is for you to understand the content of a story. We all go to college and we're told to write stories, but if you know and understand the formula behind a story, then you've got a good basis that you can help the children to understand what it is that is needed inside of a story. When you're answering the questions for people who are wanting to read a decently constructed story. Well, the job is, as an author, and tell the children when they're really young that they are authors, so that they get used to the name of author. They are writing for a purpose, they're writing for somebody else to read. And if you say to them, the most important person who's ever going to read your work is you. 5 questions. And now we start to give the answers. Well, one of the answers is how it can be described using adjectives. Well, in the booklet we talk about getting the children to close their eyes, because if I was to tell them a story and say there was a fish, then it's not a very good story. But if they close their eyes, and you try it now, close your eyes, because there is a fish. It's as wide as my hand and as long as my arm, with 2 beautiful round golden eyes and blood red fins at its neck. It swims through the water as fast as a bird can fly in the clear blue air, but when it comes to the top of the calm, calm sea, then its voice sounds like honey in the air. And then you get the children to open their eyes, and they should get used to the idea that through description you are painting a picture with words. That is all we are trying to do, paint a picture with words. But again, this is for you. So how is the description using adjectives? How someone feels using emotions. And I've always found that a good way, when you're telling a story to even the youngest of children, to talk about the heart as a means of description for emotion, rather than sad, happy. And even from year 5s and 6s, I've had very sad, and very happy. Talk about how the heart feels. His heart felt like a stone inside of his chest. There wasn't a single part of her heart that hadn't been broken into a million pieces of glass. You must emphasize that it's not just sad and happy. Description, feelings, senses, the 5 senses. What do we get? Ours is a very visual society, and it's all about how wide, how long, what colour it is. We'll get the children to use 5 senses, and one of the ways to get children used to this is by telling a story where someone eats something, so they can talk about how it tastes. Get somebody to walk past a butcher's shop and talk about the disgusting smell, or past a drain, or past a river and talk about the smell, or maybe just about the sounds, or get someone to lose a shoe so they can talk about how the ground feels on their feet. In all of this, it's necessary for you to model it so that description is used all of the time. Feelings are used using the heart. Senses are used. Well, there's one thing that we get children to put into their stories right from a very age, and that's talk. Well, you will need to have talk. Even in the reception, the children would write, "I see my dad," "I say hello," and things like this. And when you're getting towards the end of Key Stage 1, you're starting to get the children to try and work away from said and said and said and said. And one of the things that you can emphasize, and this is something that I do not introduce until we get towards the latter end of Key Stage 2, where you start to talk about, to get the children to write this, because you'll have been doing it within your storytelling, but to get the children to write it, you talk about how the voice sounds. And the way that you can get this across is by saying to the children, "Help," he shouted. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But help, his voice was filled with fear and anger. And you've talked about feelings, and you haven't mentioned how the words were actually spoken. Help, his voice was rattling and echoing in that empty place. And with that, you've used the setting. But if you put the two of them together, it comes out, help, his voice was filled with fear and anger and rattled and echoed in that empty place. And now you've got a much more mature way of actually describing the way that it was talked. Now, I'll give you an idea of how you can show children how this works. This is not what you would show to the children in reception. What you would have is a board with these 5 questions on. And when the children come up to you and go, "I don't know what to write," well, you can put 5 fingers in front of them and say, who is going to do something in this story? What are they going to do? When are they going to do it? Where and why? And it saves that long queue of 17 children all saying that they're stuck with a story when you go like that. It puts the emphasis on them to actually construct the story. And they know that there's a structure now. So, if I tell the story and say, "I fell off a wall," it's not enough. But if I say, "When I was younger, my friends were always daring me to walk on a wall, and I never would, but one day, when the sun was shining high in the sky and looked like a great golden coin, we were walking by the side of the old park that was filled with trees that are strong and tall and look like soldiers. Well, there was a wall, but it was no higher than my hip. And with their teeth together, they hissed at me, 'Go on, get up on the wall.' But it was only as high as my hip. And up I got on top of the old brown crumbling bricks. And as I walked along the wall, I started to show off. I started to dance this way and that. And it was when I was dancing on top of the wall that my foot slipped. Well, the wall might have been as high as my hip on one side, but it was taller than me on the other. And I found myself falling down towards the thin roof of the insect house of the zoo. And then I fell through that roof and found myself surrounded by 1,000 man-eating spiders. And you've got a choice. I fell off a wall, or the second one that has who were my friends and me, what I walked on the wall, when it was a sunny day because the sun was in the sky, where did it happen, on top of the wall, by the side of the zoo, in the old park, and why did I walk on top of the wall? Because my friends dared me to. I didn't want to look foolish. Young children will come up with very surprising answers for why. And that's the way that you would introduce this within the Key Stage 1. Key Stage 2, now you've got a chance to show this. This I wouldn't introduce until perhaps year 5 and year 6, talking about the voice sounds. But children will be used to listening to it because you will have modelled it. Well, I could say there was a boy in the forest. And it's not much of a story. But if you start to use all of this structure to show children how their writing can become more mature, you say, the boy was nearly as tall as a man and stood by the side of that empty forest. The moon was in the sky like a great silvered coin, but a fine breeze blew his yellow hair away from his eyes, and with his thin fingers clasped together, his voice, no louder than a whisper, rattled and echoed in that empty place. Oh, I wish that I had never come away from the war. He took a step, and as he looked at the trees, he could see that they held leaves on their branches, and each of the leaves had all of the colours of the rainbow within them. But it was the sound that they made, a soft and a gentle thud as they hit the ground. And on he walked through that place, his feet being cut by the fine gravel, and it crunched and rattled and echoed in that place, and there was a smell of death in the air. You've got a choice. The boy walked through the forest, or the second that had description. I forgot to put in feelings, but his heart was heavy in his chest. Senses, talked about the smell of death, talked about what he could hear. His talk was no bigger than a whisper, rattled and echoed in that empty place. And there you have a much more fulfilling read for the children to understand that they need to put 5 questions and 5 answers. For older children, you can introduce it in the way of saying, it's not just the 5 questions that you used to have when you were in the infants. Now, it's 2 handfuls, and it's not whatever, it's who, where, what, why, and when, descriptions, feelings, senses, talk, and the way that the talk sounds. Well, one last part within this is the fact that a story has 3 parts. Now, I know that people have dissected stories into 7 parts and talked about character, conclusion, and dilemma. I find, and this has been developed over 7 years, since 1999, I've been developing this so that children have a means of understanding about story, and I tend to go for beginning, middle, and end. Well, if you put those letters together, beginning, middle, and end, together they spell out be me. And that's the whole point. When I'm telling a story, I need you to be me. I need you to be able to see what I can see inside of my head. I need to make sure that I have committed it to the way that I've spoken it or written it, so that you can be me. And that is the question that children should ask themselves when they are reviewing the work. Can whoever's reading this be me? Now, it's all well and good talking about the theory and you have these 5 questions and 5 answers, but the foundation stage is what you can do is to show them that these things have a purpose. You can turn story making into a game where you take an ordinary carrier bag with 5 classroom objects in, anything at all, and you get the children to take an object out. So I'll just put my hand in, and I've pulled out, well, it's a bobbin and some thread. And you look at that and say, well, who could this be? It's a man whose shirt is falling to bits. It's a woman who is very good at stitching. It's a tailor. It can be anything that you want. It could be a snake with a long, thin tongue. And you say, What are they doing? Well, let's decide. And this is where, with speaking and listening, one of the foremost pushes of the recent governmental plans to get speaking and listening, you get the children to negotiate. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the woman who can stitch very well? Is it going to be the tailor? Is it going to be the snake? Is it going to be the man with the raggedy shirt? And they decide, well, let's choose the man with the raggedy shirt. And what's he doing? Is he walking? Is he talking? Is he by himself? So you get the children, and again it's negotiation about those children who put their hands up, those children who choose sensibly and can give a sensible, reasonable, imaginative answer. What we're trying to get to do is to get the children to use their imagination. So you say, so what's he doing? He's walking, all right? When is this happening? Is it the morning, in the afternoon? Is it in the summertime, the winter? You give children lots of choices, so that those children who have never chosen, who have never dredged any part of their imagination ever, you've given them 4 choices. Is it the summer? Is it the winter? Is it raining? Is it sunny? And all they have to do is choose one of those. It's raining. What kind of rain? Heavy rain? Fine rain? And you get them by constant questioning to come up with, there was a man with a raggedy shirt who was walking, and the rain was falling, and the rain was falling onto his skin and making him feel cold. Where was he? Was he by a river, by a stream? Was he by the seaside? Where was he? Somebody puts a hand up, say by the seaside. What kind of seaside? Always back to trying to get the children used to the idea of description. So what kind of a sea? It was a rough, roaring sea. So there was a man. Was he tall? Was he short? There was a tall man with a raggedy shirt on his back, and he was walking, and the rain was falling, and it was falling on his skin and making him feel cold as he walked by the side of the rough, roaring sea. Why was he walking? Was he lost? Was he trying to find somebody? Was he trying to find somebody to fix his shirt? He was trying to find somebody to fix his shirt. So, from a bobbin of thread with a needle in it, we have got that there was a tall man with a raggedy shirt on his back who was walking by the side of a rough roaring sea when the rain was falling down on his skin, and he was trying to find somebody to try and help him to mend his shirt. And what I do, to be perverse, is to say to the children, good, and now it's time for milk, now it's time to do something else, and the children are sitting there. And if you think of it, you've got quite a lot of a story there. And then on the next day, you choose another object out of the bag. So I'll put my hand in. First thing there I bring out is a ladle. Now, some children may never have seen a ladle in all of their lives. But you see, it's a spoon. Well, whose spoon could this be? Give the children some ideas, especially with the younger ones. And even with the older children, you take these objects, and I'll redo this story using the same 3 objects in the form of doing it as a Key Stage 2 story. You'd look at this, but for the younger children, you'd look at this and go, it's a giant spoon. So there's this man, tall. What kind of shirts he got? I can't remember. And of course, you haven't forgotten, but you're trying to get the children to get used to the idea of composing the story. Tall man, raggedy shirt, side of the rough roaring sea, rain's falling down, shirt's hanging off his back, skin's cold. He wants to find somebody, and who does he meet but a giant? A giant who's got a huge spoon, and he's taking, well, what could he be taking? Could he be taking the sand? Could he be taking the sea? What could he be doing? And you ask them, and they decide. Obviously, without children here, I'm having to make the decisions, so I'm going to say that the giant was taking the sand, and this man, who wasn't looking where he was going, fell in a great deep pit. And there was the giant, and he screamed and he yelled, please get me out of here. I'm wet and I'm cold and I'm stuck in this hole. And the giant looked down and picked him up with his fingers. What kind of fingers? Broad fingers, his hard, broad fingers. Get children used to using multiple adjectives to describe, and ban big, 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 little, 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 little. Get them to use different adjectives each time. And he picked up the man and he popped him into his pocket. And the giant laughed. But when the giant laughed, it made the poor man's ears nearly burst. And then, it's time for milk. Your mums and dads are here. It's time to go home. You've left the children with two parts of the story. You've got a beginning and a middle. And now we'll bring it to a conclusion. I put my hand in, and I've got here, well, it's the bottom of a food mixer, and you look at that. You wouldn't use this. This isn't an everyday classroom object. But you look at that. It could be a tall tower. It could be a helicopter. It could be, well, invariably, there's always somebody who'll turn around and say it's a gun. Well, you just make a rule. Nobody is going to die. Nobody's going to get shot. And say, well, I would say it's a tall flower. It's a flower that the giant loved. And that was, pardon me, that was why he was trying to get all of the sand, so we could pack it all around that flower, because the flower was falling over. Well, this man, I've told you, was tall. And he looked and he said, if I help you, you could help me, because I need to have my shirt stitched. And I know that if you were to go and take your great big spoon and dig the hole deeper, then the flower would be closer to the ground and the flower wouldn't fall over. Well, the giant laughed, but quietly this time. His voice rattled and echoed in that empty place. And he dug deeper. He put the flowers in, lower in the soil, so that when they grew up they wouldn't fall over. And he stitched. For all he had broad, hard fingers, he could do the finest stitching in all of this world. And the giant and the man in his pocket would look after flowers, and the giant never ever took any sand from the side of the sea. I think you've got to admit that if you start off by just taking an object, asking these questions, and leave it. On another day, as a practice, take one object and ask questions, and then leave it. Take another object on the third day, ask these questions, and leave it. You don't have to make a complete story, but you are showing the children a process where they can actually construct a story. So once again, if we take those three objects that were took out of the bag, well, the first one is a bobbin, and let's look at this as if it's, say, late key stage 1, key stage 2. What could this be? Well, you don't need to give as many options. Some children will see it could be wire, it could be barbed wire, it could be a bomb, it could be something. Well, if you say that it's barbed wire, it's barbed wire by a battlefield, and there's someone there. Who could it be who would be sitting by the side? Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be just a boy or a man. You could make a point of making a gender-directed story by saying it was a girl who was there and sad and lonely. Her heart was heavy inside of her chest and felt like a stone, and her blood would only beat slowly. It felt as cold as mountain river water as she sat upon a barrel by the side of all of the barbed wire. The war had been raging, and now it was dark, and a light snow fell by the side of this once beautiful field. The girl was looking for a father who'd gone away to the battle, a father that she knew must be quite close to this place. It's a lot more story when you keep modelling it and giving the children direction than saying once upon a time there was a bobbin. So you're answering these questions, you're starting to use description. Well, and the second one was this. Well, what could this be? Well, could it be the moon? Could it be a reflection? Could it be a lake? This is all about modelling, and take an object with nothing in mind other than to get the children to start describing how it could be used inside of a story. What I'm showing you is the finished article. where you've spent several days taking an object out, asking who, what, where, when and why. You've taken an object out and you've described what it could be, what it could feel like, what somebody would feel like having this. So the girl is there. She's sitting on a barrel by the side of the barbed wire, and this could be, well, the cook giving out the terrible rations to the men. And all of the men, she asks them, have you seen my father? And she starts to describe his father. And this is a chance to bring in character. She starts to describe her father. He has a helmet upon his head. Well, they all laughed at her, because every single one of those men would have liked to have had a helmet upon their head, especially in this dangerous place. Nobody asked why she was in that place, seeking her father, but they could all feel the loss that she had inside of her chest. In the distance, she could see that there was a tall tower, and she could hear the sound of helicopters in the air. Without thinking, she ran to that place, and there she could see her father with his last dying breath. He worried. He had always worried, even when there was no war. What are you doing in this place? But his ears could not hear her reply, for his last breath was one that was made with a smile upon his face to see his daughter. There's nobody says that it has to be a happy story, but it's a lot different from the fact that it could have been a tailor or a giant, and you're writing a story, you're making a story, and it's a simple story. As I've said in the booklet, I think a lot of the time we confuse the idea of writing with having to create something that nobody's ever read before. The actual enjoyment of creating a story is all that it's about. If it becomes a fun activity when you are taking objects out of a bag, then it's not such a labour, especially if the children understand that there is a structure. Children don't get stories as part of their everyday life. But if you have this at the back of the room, there where you're working with the children and you can look at it, you can ask these questions. I'm not saying that we are all creative, but we can all ask questions. How does that person feel? What can they smell? What can they see? What are they doing in that place? You just use this as an aide de memoire to try and get the children to give you answers. And you keep going on about description. Some children will use a logical adjectival description, whereas big, little, little, small. And you tell them that it's got to be in a logical order. Quite often, it doesn't always have to be like this, but quite often when you're using adjectives, if you put them in alphabetical order, it sounds better. So if you were to say like hard and heavy, or heavy hard, or if you were to use little and soft, soft little, if you get them to actually talk out loud and say which they prefer, it is giving them a chance to say and join in with the discussion as to how the story is made. And all of these are done as a model, as a class objective to make a story for the whole class to use, and then they can start becoming more creative, and then they can start thinking of this on their own. Right, let's have a look at character. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I would do character with foundation stage and key stage 1. Now, they're not one and the same, because with the foundation stage, they are not going to be able to read the words that you write at the side. But what you do is you show children how you can record a character. And again, as a whole class activity, so that they have a single character to work on. Always, always keep it simple. Children watch a lot of soap operas, and all of a sudden there are characters that have never been mentioned at the beginning of the story suddenly popping up. Second cousins twice removed, who was played by a different actress the week before, and it makes no sense. So what you do is you keep it simple. Keep it down to maybe 3 pieces of action that happen in total. 1 piece of action at the beginning, 1 piece of action in the middle, 1 piece of action at the end. And the number of characters, keep it low and simple. I only say this if children are introduced to it very early on in their educational career, then they won't go for what a lot of year 5s and 6s go, where John, Joe, Lucy and Tim were walking along this high street, and John, Joe, Lucy and Tim walked into the shops, and John, Joe, Lucy and Tim. And it's a means of avoiding writing by having 4 names. It takes up a whole line. Keep it down, keep it simple. You know yourself that when you're reading a book, if there are too many characters, then you get lost somewhere along the way. Anyway, character. Make a decision. Man, boy, woman or a girl. So somebody will shout out that it's going to be a man. Alright, go back to the questions. What kind of a man? Tall, short, good, bad, happy, sad. Not necessarily things that you can see, but what kind of a man is he? He's tall. Alright, put your hand on the top of your head and describe his hair. Young children will always say long, short, and say, no, what colour is it? Is it short? Is it curly? Is it straight? Is it long? You've got to tell me. Well, after a process of questioning, somebody will come up with short over here and somebody over here. It's curly. Remember about the illogical adjectival description. Some will say short and long, but you've got to make a decision. And again, we go back to speaking and listening. It's got to be negotiated. And there are going to be some children who go, well, I wanted it to be long. And you say, well, perhaps it could be long next time. This is about an ongoing process of getting the children to understand that not all of the contributions can be used, but they're being valued in that they've spoken and they've thought, and if they remember, you said next time it can be long, and you go, oh yes, and you've got a dialogue going with these children. This is also a means of control, because if you've got the bag, I'm only going to ask those people who are sitting well. I'm not going to ask those people who shout out at me. If you've got something to say, you put your hand up. And it does work. Trust me. I'm a storyteller. Okay, so we've got this man with short, black, curly hair. So you draw. And you don't have to be the best artist in the world, as you'll probably notice from what I do. So, short, black, curly hair. And you write the words short and black and curly in the correct colour. This works so that those children at the end of Key Stage 1, they can't come up to you and say, I don't know how to write short. They've seen you write short, they know it's in black, they know it's close to the head. And you can ignore them. Nope, it's on the board. You've hung this up. You've put it up on the whiteboard. You put it up on the interactive whiteboard. They need to use this as an inquiry skill. Hand on the head. Now the whole idea is describing, right from foundation stage up to Key Stage 3, describe the person, head at the beginning, body and arms in the middle, and legs and feet at the end. It gets rid of that terrible shopping list, I call it. The shopping list of description, where it's all just one long list in one great chunk, and it doesn't make any sense. There is more about this on the booklet. Okay, short, black, curly hair. I can't think of what I need to draw next. I don't know. And they'll say, eyes. Well, I'll say, a potato's got eyes. What kind of eyes? And again, you give the youngest children a choice. Are they bright, small, shining, half open? And when it comes to the end of Key Stage 1, they should be able to say to you, they are bright, blue, sparkling eyes. So let's draw those. So again, you write it in the colour. Bright. With the end of Key Stage 1, you don't write the colour word. But for the youngest ones, bright, blue, sparkling. If you look at what we've got short, black, curly, bright, blue and sparkling. We've got 6 adjectives, and they can't use them more than once unless you negotiate. Who knows what's next? Well, the children are going to say long, long pointed with the water at the end. No, this person is a human being. What kind of a nose? They can't use short, they certainly can't use bright or blue, so they'll say a small, triangular. And yes, you do get this from foundation stage. Small triangular nose. Okay? Who knows what I need to draw next? I can't think. And I'll say mouth. So, you don't let them get away with just saying a mouth. Younger children are going to go like that and say, well, I don't know how to write down that. So they've got to say upturned, smiling. So, and I would say, I think is it thick-lipped, thin-lipped, smile. Smiling. There you go. There you go. There's the head, and then you just draw a face to go with it. Somebody will say, well, where are his ears? You'll say they're underneath his short curly black hair. What's he wearing on the top? Again, we're going from the top of the head and down the body. What have they got? What's he wearing? And give them choices. A t-shirt. If you're writing, say, a Tudor story, or if you're writing a Roman story, then you say you can't be wearing a tracky top. You can't be wearing a t-shirt. And it gives you a chance to get them to think about what are they going to describe. Well, let's just say it's a modern story and it's a t-shirt. What kind of a t-shirt? Now, be careful that you don't wind up making the people look like there's some kind of walking rainbow, but you would say a green t-shirt. What kind of a green t-shirt? Well, let's say it's ripped. A ripped green t-shirt. So there you go. T-shirt. You're feeling better about your own drawing already, aren't you? So, and a way of doing ripped is by putting it another line on top of it, like that. So there you go. What about his arms? Strong arms, thin arms, long arms. Have we used long yet? Review skills. No, so we're going to say long and strong. Oh, I like that. They sound the same. Long, strong arms. Remember, this is for Key Stage 1 and Foundation Stage. So long and strong. So let's draw those arms coming out the elbow like this. What kind of hands? Don't say long. Thin fingers, broad fingers. Can't use thin. What kind of hands has he got? Can't say strong. Well, huge. Huge and hard. Oh, I like that. Two words that start with the same letter. I like that. So good strong hands. We're going to see he's got one hand here, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then another hand, just loose 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. What's he got on his legs? What's he got on his legs? Trousers, jeans. What's he got? He's got jeans on. Ripped. No, you can't have ripped. We've got that. Torn. Oh, good. So he's got torn jeans on his legs. Torn jeans. Again. That's good. And if you give them suggestions, has he got torn knees? Okay, it's torn at the knees. Why are his jeans torn at the knees? Because he plays football, because he works hard. So we've got, torn blue jeans. And what's he got on his feet? And you cannot just say shoe. And be quite definite about this. I'm not going to let you get away with saying just shoes. And even if a child who's never put the hand up puts the hand up and says shoes, say no, I won't take that. You've got to tell me what they look like. Are they brown? Are they scuffed? Are they dirty? He's got dirty brown shoes on. What kind of dirty brown shoes? Have they got laces? Have they got Velcro? Have they got a zipper? Have they got buttons? So we're going to say dirty. Say dirty brown shoes, and let's say laces. So we're going to see dirty brown shoes like that. Laces, excuse me, are the long laces, are the scruffy laces? Scruffy laces, okay, so I've given really long laces like this. And now you have got a character. And with this character, you are going to describe in the story the head at the beginning and the middle, and the arms and body in the middle, and the legs and the feet at the end. You can't tell me that you couldn't draw something better than that. You'd be surprised at how many children turn round and say, "Mr. Wilson, you're a really good drawer." Well, it just about gets by. But what an effect this has on children. Now, one of the things you talk about is action description. And instead of just going, he had short black curly hair, bright blue sparkling eyes, small triangular nose, thin lipped smiling mouth, ripped green t-shirt, long strong arms, huge hard hands, torn blue jeans and dirty brown shoes with long scruffy laces. It's not very interesting. You get the children yet again to close their eyes and listen as you give them an action description. As he looked with his bright blue sparkling eyes at everything around him, the wind blew his short black curly hair. Now, he always had a thin-lipped smile on his face as he stood by the edge of the park. Now, with his huge hard hands, he rubbed at his arms. His arms were long and strong, good strong arms from all of the work that he had to do, but he wished that he had a much better t-shirt on his back. Better than this ripped green t-shirt. You've started to get the character to do something. Rub their hands, move their fingers through their hair, and that's what's called action description. You've made a character and you leave it and stop. So now we've had this character. The picture's been up on the wall, it's been there. The children have seen it every day, they can see who it is, they can look and they can say, that was the word that I thought of, that is the word that says the word blue because it's written in blue. I said he had dirty brown shoes, so now we want to have a story. And what you do is, you say to the children, when could this story happening? When could the story be happening? Here we're asking the 5 questions. When could the story be happening? It was the daytime. What kind of a daytime? A sunny day. What kind of a sunny day? I'm not going to let you get away with saying it was a sunny day. It was a hot sunny day. All right, so let's start it with it was and let's write the word hot in red. This is so that children can see adjectives. We talk about adjectives colouring our speech. If you write them in colour, then it starts to make some sense. It was a hot, sunny, I'm going to write sunny in yellow. It was a hot, sunny day. Well, I can't see that sunny, so I'm going to write black on top as well, so you can just about see that. There you go, oops, nearly. But we can see that it's yellow. It was a hot, sunny day. All right, and who was in our story? It was this man. Let's talk about something from his head. Oh, he had bright blue sparkling eyes. So let's put that in. It was a hot sunny day when, excuse me, a man. What kind of a man? A tall man. Okay, I'm going to put tall in purple. When a tall man with bright blue eyes, write that in blue. Black one here. And I'm going to put them both in blue because we used, and you're using this as an inquiry skill, with bright blue eyes. What was he doing? Going back to the 5 questions. What was he doing? He was, well, where was he? He was by a river. Excuse me? What kind of a river? Is he standing? Or is he walking? He was standing. Okay, he was standing beside excuse me? What kind of a river? A deep river. Oh, do you know, I'm going to say it was deep. And put the black for river. river. And I would say that that was a very good start to a Key Stage 1 story, and it's only been brought about by questioning. It was a hot sunny day when a tall man with bright blue eyes was standing beside a deep river, and he would ask about how he felt, what he was doing. But most of all, and you do this with foundation stage, where you have a sheet of paper and you write a B for beginning, a M for middle, and an E for end. And you have a bag and you take an object out, and oh look, it's a bobbin. What could this be? Well, he had ripped trousers, and he had torn trousers, and he had a ripped green t-shirt. Familiarity is everything. What was he wanting to do? He was wanting to have his t-shirt. Okay, so you put down notes, wanted t-shirt mended. Oh, I like that. That's a good start to a story. How was he going to get his t-shirt mended? How was he going to get that done? Who could he see? I don't know. What could this bobbin be? There was a lady. Excuse me? What kind of a lady? Let's see. A small lady. What was the small lady doing? Where was she? What did she have? How was she dressed? She had a cloak on her back. Excuse me? What kind of a cloak did she have? A small lady with brown. Okay? A small lady, and just put on brown cloak. You are not expecting the children in the foundation stage to be able to read this, but if you model note taking, then they will understand that there's a purpose to it, because this doesn't read as a story. He wanted t-shirt mended, small lady, brown cloak. Simple enough. Take another object out. Well, what do you know? It's a ladle. What could this be? She was thirsty. It was a reflection. The moon was in the sky. Well, it can't be, can it? It was a hot sunny day, so it can't be the moon. So it was, the woman was thirsty. Let's put that in a different colour. So woman, thirsty. What did the woman feel like? How did she feel? She felt frightened. She was frightened because she didn't want to fall in. So she was frightened. Frightened. So what did this man, with his long, strong arms, what could he do for her? He got the water for her. He got the water. The lady got her, she got her drink, and what happened at the end? Well, I don't know. This looks like a whisk, or it could... She made him something to eat. What did she make him to eat? She made him some pies. What kind of pies? She made him some beautiful apple pies. She made beautiful, sweet apple pies. And for foundation stage and Key Stage 1, I think you would admit that if you had, it was a hot sunny day when a tall man with bright blue eyes was standing beside a deep river. He wanted to have his green t-shirt mended, but he didn't know how to do it. His hands were huge and hard, and by the side of the river he could see a small lady. The small lady looked very sad, but she had a brown cloak over her shoulders. That woman was thirsty. She wanted to get some water, and in her hand she had a shining ladle. But this man always had a thin-lipped smile on his face, and he said, you could help me, and perhaps you could help me if I help you. He reached with his long, strong arms into that fast-flowing river, and he pulled out some of the sweetest water that lady had ever eaten in all of her life. Oh, you've really helped me. Her voice was soft. Her voice was sweet in the air. You've really helped me. That was lovely. And I'm going to make something for you, as well as fixing your t-shirt. I might even stitch some patches over your raggedy torn blue jeans, and I think I've got some better laces than those scruffy brown ones you've got. Oh, I'm going to make you a beautifully sweet apple pie. The two of them would help each other, and he would never see him in a ripped green t-shirt, but he always saw the smile on his face, and he never tripped over his laces ever again. That's one session. Second session, familiarity with the objects, and I think you've got to admit that that's a pretty good story, rather than a bobbin, a ladle and a whisk. This time we're going to look at how we deal with character in Key Stage 2. Children should be used to the idea of having one side where you draw a picture and another side where it's the external characteristics. What you do with Key Stage 2 is you take it up one step, and instead of it being a single sheet divided in two, you have it so that you have three parts to it. There is familiarity in all of these processes, in the way that you use the carrier bag, which will later go on to the who, what, where, when, why bags that I'll show you later. But with character, still you're going to draw the character in the middle. Still you're going to have the external characteristics, but the big difference is this, that on this third column on the left hand side, you get the children to talk about the internal characteristics, the things that you can't see on the outside. Even with year 5 and 6, you still get this, and not much of the internal characteristics. There are many character profiles that you get with television programs like The League of Gentlemen, with Little Britain. All of these have what kind of favourite chocolate bar a person will have. Well, so far we drew a picture of a man. Let's have it this time that it's a woman, and we're talking about interactive questioning all of the time. Who is this woman? What is she like? Top of the head, tips of the toes. And I do understand that in many instances, those children who come into your school in nursery and reception, there may only be, say, 30% of them there by the time you come to the year 6. But this is an understandable process, and those children who have got experience with it will help those children who've maybe come into your school later in their academic career. It's understandable and it's easy to do. So we'll have a woman, once again, get the children to put the hand on the top of their heads. What kind of hair? And you can be quite prescriptive and say, I'm not going to have long blonde curly hair. Let's get away from stereotypes quite early with this. So what kind of a woman? She's a woman and she's got, let's say she's got bright red hair. Short, long, spiky. We're going to say spiky red hair. So let's give her spiky red hair. I chose that mostly because red was handy. So we're going to say, and you, Key Stage 2, you don't need to write the word red. Hopefully they'll be able to manage that or find it in a dictionary. Encourage the children to use dictionaries. So we're going to say short, spiky. Okay. I don't know what we need to draw next. We're going to say green eyes. So we're going to say small, mean. Let's give her mean eyes. Mean eyes. Small, mean, green. I quite like that, the way that it sounds. Give the children encouragement. Even in Key Stage 2, even in year 10, you still get, what kind of a nose has she got? Long and pointed. Well, you can make a point of saying she can't have a long pointed nose. She can have a small button nose. Oh, we've used small. So short. We've used short. Let's have sharp. Button. A sharp button nose. Like that. Of course the children are going to say that doesn't look the way that, well, I'm the one who's drawing it, and you can draw this later. What kind of a mouth has she got? Straight. Has she got downturned? So we're going to say straight. straight mouth. Okay. Got small, mean eyes, and there's this woman. What's she wearing? Well, it can't be Elizabethan times because she's got this short, spiky red hair. So what is she wearing? She's wearing, well, let's say a shirt. Okay, she's wearing a shirt. What kind of a shirt? Open collared, has it got long pointed collars, has it got round, is it torn, dirty, dusty, ripped? In the same way as he did with the younger children, you give them a series of adjectives. So we're going to say it's going to be a round collared, dirty, and let's see, blue. Round collared, dirty shirt. Okay, so let's give a round collar. Round collar comes around like this. You can see it's open, comes down. There's the collar. Arms like this. Is she strong? Is she weak? Is it long sleeved, short sleeved? Well, let's make it long sleeved. Okay, so we're going to say long sleeved. Remember, in the same way, we've got the same colours, straight, small, mean, short, spiky. So we're going to say it's long sleeved, and I think I'm going to have it so that it's new. A shirt. Long sleeved and new. You'll still get children, as I did in year 5, asking you how to spell new or words. So have all of the words that you can. Going to give her thin hands. Thin hands with long fingers. One, oh, like this. Oh, like that. What's she wearing? Is she wearing a skirt, jeans, trousers? What is she wearing? Well, let's say she's wearing a purple pleated skirt. Do you think that a girl who's got this kind of short, spiky hair, do you think she'd like to wear a purple pleated dress? Purple and pleated. And hopefully you'll get an answer, either yes or no. She wants to wear things that make her stand out, or her mother's made this. Well, let's say her mother's made her wear this purple pleated skirt, cut on the bias with crepe de chine. I think he knows too much. And what kind of legs has she got? Well, we used long sleeved. Could we use long legged? If she's got long arms and thin hands, could you have long legs? And negotiate. Okay, so we're going to say like long legs. Quick look. Like twice the body length and the knees. I nearly know what I'm doing. It comes down. Long legs. Yep, what she got on her feet? Well, this kind of girl, spiky hair, purple pleated, she's going to have something strange. Direct the children, get them to think of what a girl like this would wear. She's going to be wearing heavy khaki boots. Well, I don't have khaki, but I think I can find a brown. So we're going to say heavy khaki boots, zipped, laced, buttoned. We're going to say laced. We'll give her these heavy khaki boots, almost like combat boots, like this, come down, like this, and give her the shoes like that. There she is, the girl, and we've got laces. And now we've got a character, and instead of saying there is a girl, we've got this girl. Short spiky hair. She's got small mean. Why is she mean? What is it that's made this girl mean? Go back to the purple pleated skirt. She's mean because she's been made to wear something. What kind of clothes does she like? Well, if she had her way, she'd wear all army clothes. Internal character. Likes to wear army clothes. What else has made her mean? What's she like when does she go around? Well, we said she was a woman, so is it? What does a mother wear? What does a mother wear? What could her mother wear that would? Well, a mother wants her to wear more things like this. So is a mother quite bossy? Does a mother tell her what to do all the time? Yep. Okay, we'll put that in. Mother tells her what to do. Alright? And she doesn't like it because it makes her lips go straight. When was the last time that this woman smiled? When was the last time she smiled? When could it be? When was the last time you smiled? Birthday. What did she get for her birthday? She got the heavy khaki boots. So birthday, smiled, boots. This is note taking, modelled for the children. Who gave her the boots? Her father. Okay, smiled, boots from father. What does a father do? Well, the obvious one would be, and you can direct children, make no bones about it, a father is in the army. Army dad. What was a cake? What was a cake like? What could a cake be like if she wants to wear army clothes? Her mother tells her what to do. Her father wants to give her these kind of clothes. Does her father live in the same house as her? We'll say no. So army dad, far away. Doesn't necessarily have to be from a broken home. So it could be that the father lives farther away. And a cake. When you've thought of a question that could drive a story along, don't let go. So think, you want to try and get the children to describe the cake. So let's say it was a camouflage cake. And if you don't know how to spell it, then show the children by going over and getting a dictionary and looking up the word and using it. Dictionaries are like these kind of magic books that are left to one side and never brought out, or only brought out occasionally. If the children see you using them, then they'll start to use them. Okay, something else about what she's like inside. We've talked about her clothes, something else, a hobby. A hobby, what does she like to do? Heavy boots on her feet? Does she like to go for walks? Does she like to play football? What could she do? Alright, well, we'll say football then. What do the boys think of this girl as she's running towards you? Spiky hair, this woman's running towards you. Well, she frightens the boys. Well, she'd certainly frighten me. So frightens the boys on the team. And one last thing. What about this woman? One last thing. What could it possibly be? Let's make it a surprise. And one of the things, when you're writing a story, one coincidence per story. All of these suddenlies and suddenlies and suddenlies. From real life, we know that there's only very occasional suddenlies or surprises. So we'll say that the surprise will be that she quite likes this new long-sleeved shirt. Secretly. She secretly likes it. Write it in a colour that you can see. Secretly likes. Likes the blouse. And there you go. A character. What she looks like. External characteristics. Internal, with quite a lot of plot inside. That has been her birthday. That the mother and father give her different things. She secretly likes the blue blouse. So quite a lot there. In exactly the same way as we used with the foundation stage and key stage 1, you have a blank sheet of paper. You have the character description, which you would have done with the children. There is a section which is all about the different sheets, the skeleton sheets to use, but you would have got the children to have copied the drawing on the sheet of A4 paper folded in three, the drawing, the description words in the right colours, and the internal characteristics. The beauty of this is that it is some notes that the children have made that will stand up on the table in front of them. And again, you talk about beginning for the head, middle for the arms and the body, and the end would be something that happens with the legs and the feet. And they can stand that in front of them on top of their desks. It's not put in their trays and left. So we have this as a recording sheet. The children have done this. They've got the physical description, the internal description, and again, you do this first as a class effort. So, when is this going to happen? Are we going to use when as a beginning? Are we going to use who as a beginning? What are we going to choose? What is going to happen at the beginning? So why don't we talk about this woman? And we'll have that as there was, well, tall or short. And again, the only difference being is you're not printing this out, because for the later stages, and I forget all the time, in the later stages I'll wind up printing because I've just been working with reception. But with the older children, it can start to be done in cursive writing. There was what kind of a woman? Well, let's make her even more frightening because she's the tallest. There was a tall, and again in a colour so that the children can see we're using adjectives. Tall, but I want more than just tall. Well, we said she had a small, mean mouth. There was a tall, and I'm going to put that in green because I like that. There was a tall, mean woman. What was she doing? Well, let's think about what she liked to do. She liked to play football. She liked to frighten the boys and the rest of the team. There was a tall, mean woman. And what was she doing? Playing football. Remember, these are just notes. There was a tall, mean woman playing football where? On a field. What kind of a field? Look at the boots. They're heavy. Perhaps she got those from her father. Perhaps it could be that she's just got some camouflage cake inside of it. So what? There was a tall, mean woman playing football on, let's have a little look, on a, well, let's put it in blue, on a wide, and I think I'm going to say dirty pitch. There you go. And she was, what was she doing? Was she happy? How did she feel? More about a description. There was a tall, mean woman playing football on a wide, dirty pitch, and she was, well, what could she be doing to frighten people? Was screaming. She was screaming. Like a, oh well, let's put it in, red-headed ghost. We've done something about her, red-headed ghost. As she charged, where would you charge towards? Where would you charge towards? The goalposts, the net, screaming like a red-headed ghost as she charged. How did she charge? Like a bull. Okay. Charged like, excuse me, what kind of a bull? Angry, okay? Like an angry bull towards the other team's net. That's a pretty good start. There was a tall, mean woman playing football on a wide, dirty pitch, and she was screaming like a red-headed ghost as she charged like an angry bull towards the other team's net. Well, I'd be quite happy with that for a start to a story. And it's with the later stages of Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, you show the children that you're writing for a purpose. You were giving details. You were giving people answers to the questions. There was, happened in the past. Well, what kind of a woman? She was tall. She was mean. We know she was a woman. What was she doing? She was playing, not just playing, but she was playing football. And it wasn't just a field. It was a wide, dirty pitch. And she was, well, she was screaming. How was she screaming? Like a red-headed ghost. And what she was doing was charging. How? Not like a bull, but like an angry bull towards, well, where was she going? Towards the other team's net. And in one sentence, we've answered 18 questions. And it shows the children, by putting these numbers above, that they now know that they are, well, the writing has a function. And again, it's beginning and middle and end, like that. And let's choose 3 objects. I'll put my hand in. Well, it's a bag of Asda dried stone dates. So what could that be? Who could have those? Was it going to be half time soon? Was she going to be hungry? Well, let's say she was hungry. She was hungry. Hungry, even though she'd eaten some camouflage cake. Camouflage cake. And you know now that the beginning of your story, as well as this sentence, which the less able perhaps could copy, you've got to put in these facts. She was hungry, camouflage cake. Somebody says to you, I don't know how to write the word camouflage. Then you say it's the second word in brown by the side of the letter B. Okay, she was hungry, even though she'd eaten some camouflage cake. Let's get some facts in. It's about a birthday. Had anybody done anything? They'd laughed at a blue birthday, laughed at blouse, and don't forget to put in that it's a round collared. There you go. And it was on this pitch, so it was getting dirty. So what else could we have from these dates? What else could we have from these dates? She was hungry, and let's say at half time. You can be quite literal and say, well, let's go for what it actually is. And at half time, 8 dates. Okay, we can talk about how she looked, but we're just making notes here. Nothing more and nothing less. You know that children, when they write their notes, it winds up being the story. Instead of it just being woman, spiky hair, they write out as sentences. This shows them about almost in bullet point form how to make notes that they can and will use. Okay, so we need to take something else out of the bag. Right. Well, what could that be? Well, I know what I would think it was. There's nothing that was said that it has to be in this country, and that to me looks a bit like a palm tree. So I'm going to say it's a palm tree. So there were palm trees all around. Let's put those in. Well, if it's a plant, do it in green. Palm tree, or even date palms. That these dates that they ate, they took them from off a palm tree. So palm dates. So it's going to be hot in that place. What else could that be? What else could we use this for? Let's say that she's got a friend who could perhaps use something like this. So a friend who's a mechanic who could use, or a carpenter. So a friend. She hasn't got many friends because she looks so fierce. Friend, we're going to say mechanic. Had he been to the birthday party? Did she have many friends? Did many people come? Always ask the questions. Not many friends, so not many. Had seen her pretend to not like the blouse. Pretended to not like blouse. And now we need to make the story come to an end. Fish. There's a fish, and it's a pen. So if there are dates and palms, how could we use the fish? Well, how could we use the fish? Even though it's quite a hot day, she's got these heavy boots on. Remember, we've talked about the head, we've talked about the middle, and now about the feet. She got these boots from her father. Do they fit? What about your new boots? Do they fit when you first put them on? Well, perhaps not. So boots goes into water. What kind of water? Salty, briny, clear, sparkling, fresh, sweet. Boots, water. She's got these heavy khaki boots on. She's on the dirty pitch. She wants to make sure that she's got things clean. Boots, water, clean. Who could there be there? Remember we said, army dad, far away. How could he come and see her at the end of the story? He sees her dancing in the clear water and laughs. Laughs. And maybe even tells her mother that she really liked the blue blouse. It's a better story than once upon a time there was a girl, some dates, an extension to a screwdriver and a fish pen. There was a tall, mean woman playing football on a wide, dirty pitch, and she was screaming like a red-headed ghost as she charged like an angry bull towards the other team's net. She was hungry. Even though she'd just eaten some camouflage cake, she loved things that looked like the army. Her father, who was far away, had sent her a pair of heavy khaki boots, but her mother had given her a long-sleeved new blue blouse. It had round collars that looked too girly for her. If she could have, she would have worn nothing other than combat gear. But now she was screaming towards the net, and she was hungry. She'd eaten some camouflage cake. That was the only thing that her mother had given her that looked like it was from the army. But she had laughed at the blouse. All of her friends had laughed at the blouse. But secretly inside of her heart, she quite liked it. As she sat down with the rest of the team, she frightened them all, but she sat with them. As she frightened the rest of the team, at half-time she ate some dates. Now the dates came from the palm trees that were there by the side of the sweet clear river. For it was a hot day, so far away from a home in England. It was hot, and a friend of hers who sat beside her, who was a mechanic, very good at fixing anything, especially her car, which was always breaking down. It had camouflage wheels and everything. But she didn't have so many friends. And he knew that she was pretending to hate the blouse. She was dirty, from the top of her short spiky red hair to her heavy khaki boots. And at the end, when her team had won, they had asked if it would be all right if they could lift her up on their shoulders. Well, she didn't really want to. For once, she didn't want to be seen, because there was no way you could miss her with her red hair and a bright blue blouse. But she went. She thought she wanted to clean the boots, but she slipped and she fell with a great big splash right into that clean water, and she started to dance in the clear water. And she hadn't laughed or smiled, not since her birthday, when she'd been given the boots. And as she was dancing to make herself clean, who could she see coming from the side of that dirty pitch but her father? He laughed out loud. "Well, what are you doing? I've seen you smile, but not very often. But you're dancing now." "I'm dancing to get myself clean," she said. She ran towards him, and the two of them stood by the side of that river as the mother looked. She knew inside of her heart she had to tell her mother that she really did like the blue blouse. And for once, on her straight mouth there was a smile. She and her mother and her father walked back to finish off the last of the camouflage cake.